I'm Jolene Wynn, and this is the Porn Addict's Wife podcast, episode number 125, In the Room Where It Happens. Your life does not have to revolve around your husband's pornography addiction. You are not defined by his choices or by what he sees on a screen. You are not just the porn addict's wife. You are so much more. In this podcast, I'm going to teach you how to go from handling it to healed. Because I've been where you are, and you don't have to stay there. My name is Jolene Wynn. I'm a member of the LDS faith, a certified life coach, and a wife of a former porn addict. And this is a podcast for the porn addict's wife. Hello, my ladies. How are you? I am so excited to be chatting with you guys today. I just had the most incredible week. It was exhausting in the best way. Right? I just came back from California. On Tuesday, I left for California and I flew on a red eye on Friday night. I got in yesterday morning at 10 a.m. It was the longest week and my brain is tired, and yet also I'm so on fire. I'm so excited for this year, and I wanted to share some of the things, one of the most incredible things that I learned while I was there. I am part of Jody Moore's business mastermind. So there's, 20, 25 of us that are all coaches or entrepreneurs and working on our businesses. And over the course of the next year, we're going to be working together and improving our business. And I've talked about this on the podcast before. This was such a huge emotional step for me. This was so hard to say yes to, not because I didn't want to work on my business, but because as part of this program, as part of this mastermind, we are doing 3 in-person events. And I know you guys, my husband always says he doesn't believe this, but I am shy. And it is not my favorite thing to go to places where I'm going to be with people that I don't know. Especially when I am doing something that scares me to death. Now, as a coach, I don't feel this at all. I'm 100% confident. I have no problem with this. Now, as a human being, as a shy little girl that I still feel like I am on the inside, it's very difficult for me to be in a room where I'm not leading, where I would rather just sit in the back of the class and not say anything. And yet I knew that that was not going to be possible just because of the size of the room. And so this was a difficult thing to say yes to, but I did it. And for 3 different times this year, we are going to be meeting in person together and talking about our business and growing it and masterminding about how to improve each one. So that is what this weekend was. And the first morning, Wednesday morning, I walk into the room and I'm just like full of butterflies, not because I'm going to be talking about my business, but because I'm going to have to sit next to somebody I don't know and all of those fears that come up. And that's a story for another time. But I wanted to share with you one of the overarching themes or messages or lessons that I learned from this weekend. And it's the power of being in the room where it happens. Okay. And that's what I want to talk to you guys about today. So one of the things that's so fascinating about being the wife of a porn addict is that you can feel so very alone. And it doesn't even have to be that necessarily, although that is the example that I'm using, but think of anything that's unique in your life that you're struggling with. Not necessarily something like motherhood, right, which does have its struggles, but something that not everybody around you can relate to, right? So for example, with motherhood, with the struggles that you deal with a teenage daughter or with frustrating toddlers or whatever it is, you can immediately go to your group of friends or call up your sister and talk to them about what it is that you're talking about, and they know what you're talking about, right? They understand your struggles. You know you're not the only mom in a grocery store with your kid throwing a fit on the floor, and you can just look around and everyone's like, yeah, I know exactly how you feel, right? That is not what I'm talking about. There are some struggles that are quiet and you can feel very alone while you go through them. If you have a loved one struggling with an addiction, right? For example, very lonely. You feel like you're the only one going through it. And it can feel very, very isolating, right? Now, as someone who is a stay-at-home mom who is also an entrepreneur and I'm working on my own business, I am growing my own business, sometimes I have that same feeling. Sometimes I feel very alone. The struggles that I am facing are not something that I can go to my friends and they can understand, right? Where I'm talking about funnels and talking about, publishing a book and how do I reach more people? They might sympathize. They might say, oh yeah, that is a struggle, but they don't understand exactly what it is that I'm going through emotionally, mentally in trying to run this business and trying to grow my business and trying to help my clients. And that's totally fine, but sometimes it can feel very alone. Sometimes when you do all of this work on yourself, sometimes when you are struggling through this addiction with your husband's addiction and all that goes with it, it can feel very isolating, right? You guys know what I'm talking about? And so sometimes it can feel like there's no one that understands you. Now, what I want to offer is that that's not true. Ladies, we have over 100,000 downloads of this podcast. We have hundreds of women that listen to this every single week. I have dozens of clients that I have coached. You are not by yourself. And yet your brain, when you can't see those other people or talk to them, it's very tempting for your brain to get overwhelmed and to feel very alone. So sometimes it takes intentional effort to put yourself in a place where you go find those people, where you put yourself in a place with like-minded individuals, right? This is, again, I've brought this up before. This is why we go to church on Sunday, right? Because sometimes it can feel very hard to live a Christian lifestyle that is different from other people. And so when you go to church on Sunday, that's intentionally putting you in a place where you're surrounded by other people. It's very important for your brain to see and very comforting subconsciously to know that you're not alone. And sometimes that just takes extra effort. Same for if you're trying to lose weight. If you're like the only one of your friends who's tracking their food or exercising regularly, it can feel very lonely. But if you put yourself in a gym or a fitness class, right? Or you get, this is why on Peloton, why I don't have a Peloton, but I see the videos. This is why they have an instructor on a video and why you can join a live class. Do you know why they do that? You know why it's not just all pre-recorded? I mean, they do have some pre-recorded, but you know why you can join a live class? Is because there's something really powerful in your brain and really motivating about putting yourself in the company of other individuals who are doing the same thing. Right? There's something very powerful in your brain that says, oh my gosh, I can do this and I'm not alone. Now, sometimes, again, it just takes an extra effort. It takes some intentional effort in order to put yourself in that room. It's not a room where you can just hop in. It's not just next door. Sometimes you have to drive to the gym. Sometimes it takes flying to a conference. Sometimes it takes going to church every single week and putting yourself in the place where you're with those people. For me, this weekend, it took joining a mastermind and flying to California to go be in a room with 30 people that I did not know, had never met before, to put myself in a place where I was in a room with other people who understood what I was going through. And even as they just started talking, we started talking about our businesses, immediately it was so powerful for my brain to recognize, oh my gosh, I'm not the only one struggling with this. I'm not the only one trying to make this happen. I'm not alone. And I want to encourage y'all to really focus and really think about where is the room that I can put myself in, because it's so, so powerful. Okay. Now, I want to go through a couple of the different groups of people that were there and what was so fascinating about it. So while I was there, each of the coaches, we all talked about our businesses individually. We spent 3 days talking about every single person's business, what they're struggling with, what their goals are, and brainstorming on how to help solve the problems that they were facing. Okay. So as some people started talking, as soon as the first girl started talking, she started talking about where she was in her business. And first of all, my brain said, oh my gosh, she's made so much money. It was amazing. I was so proud of her. And this was actually a girl that I went through life coach training with. And so it was so awesome to see that we've been coaching for the exact same amount of time. We have completely different niches. We coach completely different women, but it was so exciting to see where she's been. And yet, as she's talking about her business, the drama and the mental work that she is struggling with right now is all work that I've already done. So as she sat there and I listened to her, I thought, oh my gosh, girl, I have been where you are. I promise it gets better. Right? And it was so powerful and so exciting for my brain to see, oh my gosh, I'm farther than I thought I was, right? Because sometimes we think this, sometimes we listen to podcasts, we're doing the self-improvement journey, and yet we still feel like we have so far to go. It's very tempting to just think we're never, ever going to get there. And our brain also forgets how far we've come. I see this with my clients all the time. I have to remind them and say, look, Do you remember where you were 6 months ago, the way you thought about yourself, the way you felt about yourself? Look how far you've come. Just because you're struggling right now, our brain wants to make it mean that we're never going to get this. Nothing is working. It's all a disaster. Why don't we just go ahead and quit? But I want to encourage y'all, especially if you feel that way. If you feel like, oh my gosh, here I am. I've been listening to this stupid podcast for however long I've been listening to it, or I've been coaching with Jolene or listening to whatever, and I still feel like I'm a hot mess. Think about where you were 3 months ago, 6 months ago, a year ago. Tell me if you haven't felt like you've made progress. And sometimes we just need to, sometimes it's really nice to see and hear other people who are in that same kind of circumstance, and for our brain to recognize, oh, I have made more progress than I thought I have. I need to give myself credit for the work that I have done, be grateful to my past self for doing that work, and recognize and be proud of myself for that work, right? And when we are in that place, it's so easy for me to hold belief for my friend as she's sitting there with all of her mind drama and all of her struggles in her business that I've already worked through, and to say, girl, it's okay. This is all figure outable. And she wanted to talk to me we had so many good conversations, and she was so grateful that I was there and could talk to her about it and explain things that worked for me, because it was so helpful for her to see that someone else had already done it, right? And that was powerful for me as well. So not only were there people there who were behind me in different ways, right? She had made more money than me, so she was ahead of me in that way, but behind me in maybe some mental struggles, right? Like just in some places where she was stuck in her business mentally, which is no problem. You're going to be ahead of some people and behind some people in all various ways. So it was super powerful for my brain to see that, but then to also see other coaches, other entrepreneurs who were ahead of me, not only in money, but in all kinds of other mental ways. And it was powerful for me to see that, because I could see, okay, so it is possible. People are doing this, because sometimes I think it's not possible. Sometimes I think about all the women that are out there that I want to help, all the women that are struggling with their husband's addiction, and I just want to go help them all, which I'm getting there. Don't worry, ladies, share it, help me out, okay? We're going to get there. We're going to help everybody. But sometimes my brain thinks like, that's totally impossible. You're just a stay-at-home mom of 5 kids. You're homeschooling this year. Like, who do you think you are, right? There's so many times that our brain wants to think this isn't possible for me. And yet, when I sat in that room and saw what other people were doing and saw that they were just enough ahead of me, then my brain thought, okay, so it is possible. People are doing it. This is one of the things that I love about my coaching program, why it's so powerful, why I love coaching in a group versus one-on-one, and why it's so much more important is because women get on these calls, all my clients, when we get on these calls, and they see that there are other women who might be a little bit ahead of them. It's so powerful for your brain to see, oh, okay, so it is possible for someone to get over this thing, this struggle that I'm having, this thought that I'm having, this emotion that I'm feeling kind of stuck in. I don't have to stay here because they're saying that they used to be here and they're not there now. So it is possible. And the more examples your brain has of that, the more likely it is to believe it. Like sometimes I feel like you guys think I'm a unicorn, right? Or, it's just like I'm unique, I'm different. It's possible for me, but it's not for you. And that's what's so powerful about being in the group is that you can see that that's not true, right? You can see, oh, it's not just Jolene. It's not just because she's weird and her brain is wired differently. It's possible for Jolene. It's possible for this client and that woman and this lady. All of those women, if it's possible for all of them, then maybe it's possible for me. And it starts to break down that belief that it's impossible, right? This is why weight loss is all done in groups most effectively, right? This is why you go to group fitness classes. This is why they have like Jenny Craig meetings. Is Jenny Craig still a thing? I don't know. Weight Watchers meetings, whatever it is, right? This is why they have support groups online for like literally everything, because it's so powerful for your brain to see, oh my gosh, okay, so she's doing it. Maybe I could do it too. It starts to break down that belief that we have about ourselves that it's impossible, right? This is why it's easier to go get a degree when it's in person and you're in a class, because you're like, oh, okay, so it is possible. Look at all these people that are doing it. Maybe I could do it too, right? It's so powerful for our brains to see that there's possibility. And now here's another thing that I want to share is that it was super fascinating to have a leader. So Jody Moore was the coach, and she's the coach that's running the program and helping us each individually with our businesses and collectively as a group. And it was so powerful for her, who is, making millions of dollars every single year coaching and helping people. So powerful for my brain to see not only her, not only the other coaches in the room, but to have her hold belief for me. I've talked about this on the podcast before. When I have had coaches, one of the most powerful things about having a coach for me is someone holding belief that it's possible. So when I sat there and I talked about my goals for this year, you guys want to know what they are? I'm going to have 100 women. I'm going to coach 100 women this year. I'm going to have 100 clients. If you want to be one of those 100 clients, come join me because it's going to be a good time. We're going to have 100 clients this year. I'm going to add 100 clients into my program, and I cannot wait. But as I sat there and I said it out loud, part of me wants to throw up, okay? Part of me wants to think, you can't do it. You're just a stay-at-home mom. You only have this many clients right now. Yeah, you've had some more in the past, but there's only this many, and here's all the reasons why that's not going to work, and here's all the things that are out of your control. And yet that coach, this leader, Jody Moore, sat there, and she's been where I am. She's also a stay-at-home mom who started her coaching business 9 years ago, just on the phone, right before Zoom, okay? And she started coaching one-on-one just like I did. And she's sitting there saying, absolutely, it's totally possible. You're absolutely going to help 100 women this year. You're going to make $300,000. Easy. And she held that belief for me. And here's the coolest thing too, is everyone else in that room also did. There wasn't a single person in that room who said, I don't know, 300,000, that sounds a little unrealistic. Are there really 100 women out there? Are you sure? I don't think that that's right. I don't think you can do it. Maybe somebody else, but not you. Not one person. In fact, all of them were like, oh my gosh, yes, of course. Why not more? Absolutely, you can make $300,000 this year. Absolutely, you can have 100 clients. Someone holding belief for you when you don't quite have that belief in yourself is so, so powerful. And there's something even more spectacular about putting yourself in a room where that is a possibility. If I hadn't put myself in that room, then I wouldn't have had this experience. I wouldn't have drawn on their belief. I wouldn't be able to lean on their belief when I don't feel like I have that in myself. Do you guys see what I'm saying? This is why you have a fitness coach and this is why in every business they have teams and team leaders, right? Somebody to hold space for you, someone to believe in you, someone to push you when you need to be pushed, but also hold belief that you can do it. The reason that they push you is because you are capable of so much more than you think you are. And our brains want to hold ourselves back. Our brain wants to stay in the cave. Our brain is designed to say, no, that's too scary. Don't do it. We might die. And we need someone to say, no, I've been out of the cave and it's better. And I know you can do it too. That is what is so powerful about putting yourself in the room, whether it's a virtual room or a physical room. This week it was a physical room, but every week when I meet with my clients, it's a virtual room. And it is so powerful because our brains limit what we can do. Our brains want to limit us to what we are already doing. Our brain wants to say what we're doing is working because we're alive. So let's just keep doing what we're doing. But there's so much more. You have so much more potential and it's possible. I would rather believe that it's possible for you. I would rather hold space for that belief. And I believe it is. This is why I do my podcast every single week. Ladies, do you guys know why I want to grow and make $300,000 this year and coach 100 women? Is because there are more than 100 women even listening to this podcast. And I want you guys, I see the potential in every single one of you. I know where you are, and I know that that's not where you have to stay, and I know that you can get there. All you have to do is show up and believe in yourself, and when you don't, I believe for you. And all the women in my group believe for you. Ladies, there is something so powerful about putting yourself in the room where it happens. So I want to encourage you, ladies, whatever it is that you're struggling with, whether that's your husband's addiction or your weight, you can pick multiple areas, but start with one. And I want you to ask yourself, where are the people, if they're not in my immediate vicinity, right? If it's not just, the group of neighbors that are all getting together to do the same thing. Where are the group of people that are struggling and trying to improve themselves in this area just like me, whether that's with weight or with your husband's addiction or whether it's Whether you want to go back to school, right? Where are the people meeting who are trying to do the same thing? And how do I put myself, where is that room? And go join it, ladies, today. Because there is nothing more powerful than putting yourself in the room where it happens. You can do it. And when you don't believe that you can, I want you to remember that I do. You have so much in you, so much more than you give yourself credit for. And it's just your brain being a little bit scared, wanting to stay in the cave. But life is better outside the cave, my ladies. I promise you. And it's scary. And sometimes we don't want to do it. And you're going to feel like you want to throw up. And maybe you have butterflies. And maybe you cry after you join the room, just like I did. But it is the most powerful, beautiful experience. And that's what makes life the life that we want. That's how you create the life that you want rather than just live the life that you have. It's by putting yourself in the room on purpose. So go find the room and put yourself in it, ladies. And remember, I totally believe you can do it. I love you, ladies, so much. I'll talk to you guys next week. So take care. All right, ladies, if you are loving what you are learning on the podcast, I want to invite you to come join my coaching program. This is where we take it to the next level and we actually start applying and learning the how of moving forward. This podcast has taught you the what, and the coaching program is where you're going to learn the how. This is where you learn how to actually start moving forward, process all of that pain that you feel, and let it go once and for all. If you are ready to finally move forward and stop living a life that revolves around your husband's pornography addiction, then I want to invite you to come join me today. Just head to my website, joleneLynn.com, and sign up today. I can't wait to see you there.